All right, welcome into Big Hitters Only. I'm your host, Ross Martin. Real quickly, I want to kind of break down what we talked about in this episode. First, sponsored by Delta Spirits. DrinkDeltaSpirits.com. Use promo code BHO. Get all your different THC-infused beverages. All right, so we bring on Mike Hardison, and Spenser Dalton and talk about Elliot Cadeau leaving, Jaylen Washington leaving UNC, the decisions of Drake Powell and Ian Jackson, what UNC's roster looks like right now, what they need in the portal, what could happen, what might happen, and then we take a brief look at some of the top targets that we know of right now in the transfer portal. Henry Vassier, Cannon Ketchens, Jonathan Powell, Nick Dorn, Nick Boyd, just certain people that have been connected to UNC, and some have visited, some have not visited, some are going to take visits. So it's a UNC roster podcast and a UNC transfer portal podcast as we sit on Tuesday, April 1st, about a week into the transfer portal. Then, this is why I want to do this intro, we bring on David Ray Allen, a Big Hitters Only regular now, and Spenser stays on, and we go about 15, 20 minutes on White Lotus Season 3, coming off episode 7 on Sunday and ahead of the finale next Sunday. We break down different storylines, different characters, what we think is going to happen when we think about the season overall. One of my favorite shows on HBO Max, just unbelievable written show and with unbelievable characters. So I want to talk to some people about it. So we brought on David and Spenser and got to that. Hope you all enjoy UNC roster, UNC transfer portal, and some White Lotus talk at the end. Appreciate it, guys. All right, welcome into Big Hitters Only. It is Tuesday, April 1st, April Fools at 8:38 p.m. This is going to be a transfer portal UNC roster-based podcast. Of course, we're sponsored by Delta Spirits. DrinkDeltaSpirits.com. Use their THC-based product. Use promo code BHO10. We have Mike Hardison and we have Spenser Dalton. It's the Engaged Male podcast here. We're going to get into kind of what's happened so far with UNC's roster, who left, and then who UNC's going after in the transfer portal. Sorry, the TV turned on in the back here, and I don't even know why it turned on, but it did. Anyway, all right. Elliot Cadeau left. Let's get into that. I want Spenser, tell us what you thought when you heard Elliot Cadeau was transferring and how you'll remember the Elliot Cadeau era at UNC.
I wasn't particularly surprised to see him go. I'd kind of heard through the grapevine that he had not been treated or he took exception to being treated poorly on social media. You know, his mom was a very vocal person on social media, and she received some negativity. So again, I heard that kind of had an impact. So, you know, we've already seen a couple of years ago with Caleb Love, at least from the outside looking in, you think that the fan base having a direct impact on a guy's time at school, kind of obviously connected to their basketball, but you know, it's not like they're having a bad time at the university. They're having a bad time because the fan base is giving them a hard time about their play. You know, so that's kind of an unfortunate thing that I wish we didn't have to deal with in all of college basketball. But again, I wasn't particularly surprised. You know, I think he probably felt like, you know, maybe his game didn't quite fit the scheme that Hubert runs. Maybe he didn't feel like his playing time in the later kind of third of the season, after it got curtailed just a little bit, was where he wanted it to be. It didn't feel like there was a path forward from that. So I'm sure it was a number of things, but again, not particularly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it may end up being better for both parties. We'll see. 2 years at UNC, 2-year starter, second in the ACC in assists, second in the ACC in turnovers. His quote in the article that Deshaun London posted to break the story for 24/7 Sports, you know, was like he wants to be surrounded by coaches that believe in him and that like players that he can play with, which I thought was a kind of interesting wording there. Michael, your initial thoughts? You saw him into the portal, and your thoughts on how you'll remember the Cadeau era at UNC and his play at UNC.
Yeah, I think I'll remember it just as like very high potential, some really high highs, but some very low lows. I think the volatility of his play was what did him in. Unfortunately, regardless of what school you go to as a top level recruit, you're going to face criticism online, and it is unfair, right? Like these are 18, 19-year-old kids. He was especially young as a freshman at Carolina. Unfortunate byproduct of of the world we live in, right? I think in general, I do agree here. I think it might be better for both sides just to move on. I don't think his style of play was really beneficial for what Hubert's trying to do, kind of like what Spenser mentioned. I also think that, and this might be a recurring theme, the staff doesn't seem very adept at developing players. I think their specialty might be squeezing good play out of what they have to a certain extent. And so for a guy like Elliot, who I think could develop into a really good point guard, I think you need to go somewhere where maybe you're getting coached up a little bit better. And I think that's a fair assessment, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think
I agree, man. I've got a point on that. And so you think about who's on the staff. Marcus Page coming to the top of mind. Incredible point guard. Played a little two once Joel Berry came in. Incredible guard sitting right there on the staff. And so I had really high hopes coming into this season that Elliot Cadeau would take a massive jump forward. And it kind of looked like in the first part of the season that
Hmm.
he was making that jump forward, a little bit more confident in the jump shot, taking care of the ball. We know how incredible of a playmaker he was. I mean, that guy can pass with the best of them. And so it was a little bit of a head scratcher for me over the course of the second half of the season, just watching his game be so up and down. And I make a great pass and then I make a silly foul, make a great play and then make a bad turnover, things like that. And there's no doubt in my mind that Marcus Page is saying, "Hey, do this, don't do that." Those having those sorts of conversations on the bench, in practice, in team meetings, and everything. So it felt a little strange to me to not see more consistent play on the court from him.
yeah.
And I think the big thing for Carolina point guards in general, regardless of how great they are as individual players, is they're kind of the steadfast, like the steady hand for the offense in a lot of cases. And I think if there was one legitimate knock on Elliott, it was there's some lack of emotional maturity at times. You could see it in the body language where he would really take bad plays and getting into two fouls early in the first half poorly. And I think as the point guard in a Carolina offense, you're the leader, right? Like you're the floor general. And when you can't rely upon your guy to hold it together and kind of be that steady hand, I think that's probably what did him in, to be frank.
Yeah. So his shooting got a lot better this season. He was like in the teens last year as a 3 point shooter, and he ended up in the 30s somewhere. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. I'll pull up in a second here. But I thought he was a lot better this season as a shooter, and then I thought his fouling got out of control throughout the season, which really hindered his play. And I was going to mention it too, Mike. Like super like emotional, like overly emotional on the bench at times. And then he did get, taken out of the lineup for long stretches in the second half part of the season when they went with, Drake Powell more or Ian Jackson more or Sep Trimble got more time. And UNC played a little better without him. I think what was the bad part about this team is they had two small guards, like we said, and they didn't have the shooting they had the year before. Now, last year, the team was number one seed. He was the point guard. They had more shooting and they had a legitimate big man. I think he thrives with a big man like Baycott. You kind of saw that chemistry he developed with Van Allen Lubin there in the last 8 games or so. And I think he really would have benefited with a lob threat. We never really saw him with a lob threat. Baycott,
Yeah.
not a huge above the rim player. Van Allen Lubin, definitely not above the rim player. And so it'd be interesting to see what he would be like with like a 7 footer, somebody who can just fly through the air and dunk. So we didn't, like he said in his quote, like he never got a chance to really play with what was perfectly suited for his playing style. And he was it was super exciting when UNC got him. He
Yeah.
reclassified and they sent that commit who is now at St. John's. Forget his name. You remember his name,
Sydney
Mike?
Wilshire. Yeah.
Yeah, Sammy Wilcher. Like he went away and they rolled with this lineup of RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau, and it worked for a year and had some high points this season and a game winner, and he won them some games by his play, but also lost them some games as well. I don't think we need to spend more time on him. Elliot Cadeau, 2 years at UNC. Thank you for his service. He's now at Michigan. the Chapel Hill to Ann Arbor pipeline continues. Let's move to Jaylen Washington quickly. I'm going to do something on Jaylen Washington. If y'all have anything else to say it, but we can kind of move on quickly. Jaylen Washington, he's not a Power 5 starter, certainly not at Carolina's level. He got plenty of chances this year. Great guy by all accounts. Super smart, well-mannered. Had a moment, I think the NC State game, we did a podcast right after it, was his best game, his best moment. Mm-hmm. He had some flashes. The three-point shot and the outside shooting never really got there. You'd see bits of it. Not a super strong defender. He got bodied against Ole Miss in the first half. That kind of was a huge part of that game. A good backup, maybe a good third center, but I think he should go a step down and be a starter somewhere. I do not fault guys for leaving and trying to make some money or play at a lower level and start. You only get to be in college once. Jaylen Washington, quickly from each of y'all.
Yeah, the rumor is he's visiting Ohio State. So, I don't know how much of a step down Big Ten is, but I guess there's a premium on size, right? Like at the end of the day, like if you're close to 7 feet tall, you're going to get paid in the portal. You're going to be an attractive option because every school thinks that they're the school that's going to fix them, right? And so, you're in typically you're in the transfer portal for a reason. Either you were, not recruited like you should have been early on, or there's a flaw in your game and another school is buying your upside and thinks they can work on that flaw. And so there is potential in Jaylen Washington. It just never really developed at Carolina. Injury concerns were a big deal. Maybe it clicks somewhere else. I wish nothing but the best for him. Anyone that can beat State, in clutch moments is good in my book. Like you said, I've heard nothing but rave reviews about him as a person. So really rooting for him wherever he goes.
And let me step that back. He probably could start at Power 5. Like, I bet he could find a spot on a team. But if I was him, I'd go someplace where I am secured a starting role to play 30 minutes a game and, just be able to be a double-double guy and just play a lot. Spenser, quickly here on Jaylen Washington.
Yeah, not much else to add. You would have liked him, kind of like Cadeau, to just take a bigger step year to year. You saw some flashes. He's got decent touch around the rim, long enough and athletic enough to get up there and catch a lob or, dunk on somebody. But, you just didn't see the physical development, getting more muscular, getting more powerful. Didn't see that over his 3 years and didn't see the scoring kind of prowess really come out either. So not much else to add. Wish him well.
Yeah. All right, let's move. So now you have two people off the team. So what remains for UNC's roster? Let's see if I can go off my dome here. They have the option of a Drake Powell, Ian Jackson returning. That's not very likely. Seth Trimble, by all accounts, is coming back. It's kind of been subtly reported by Inside Carolina on their message board. So you have Seth Trimble. You have Vin Allen Lubin, who's coming back. So you have a kind of a 4-5. You have, help me out here, Mike. Who else we got coming back?
You have Caleb Wilson coming in as a freshman, who should be a plug and play at the 4. He should start. And then you have two guards coming in there, kind of top 40, top 50 recruits. Dixon, and I want to make sure I don't get the name wrong.
Derek Dixon. Yeah, this is bad. You got it in front of you.
Derek Dixon is Isaiah Dennis. That's right.
That's right.
So
you also have James Brown. Go ahead. You have James Brown as a freshman who's going to have a sophomore year here, and I think that's it. So we have Seth Trimble, Vin Allen Lubin, James Brown, and then 3 freshmen coming in, Caleb Wilson slotting in at the 4. So that gives you that's 6 players secure in the roster. All eyes now turn to Drake Powell's decision, the potential rising sophomore, and then Ian Jackson's decision. Now, this is my opinion. It's not really based on anything. I think Ian Jackson's gone. I think he's going to declare for the NBA draft or potentially transfer. And then I think Drake Powell, maybe 50-50 right now. But I think for him, it's either return to UNC or go into the NBA draft. But his decision is huge because you have him. Then all of a sudden you have Seth Trimble, Drake Powell, and Caleb Wilson. You kind of surround and fit pieces in there. Early thoughts, Mike, on kind of what the roster is looking like right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in flux, right? I mean, this is the new world we live in. Transfer portal, it is a completely it's a complete overhaul from season to season. It feels like. I think the big deal right now is I do agree with you. I think Ian Jackson is probably gone regardless, based upon everything that's being put out there. Either transfer portal or draft. It sounds like Ian and Drake are both waiting to get their evaluation from the draft to see if they're first round picks. Would love to have Drake back. Obviously, you want a stud freshman that shot close to 40% from 3 point range and is a great defender. That's an easy decision. But this is as a Carolina fan, we've spent a decade talking about how we want one and dones, and then we get upset when the kids are one and dones. It gets a little silly, from time to time when you have these kids that are getting first round grades and leaving, and people are getting upset about it. When you're bringing in top level recruits, they're gonna leave for the NBA draft. It's pretty simple. Obviously, the big thing right now is where do you go for the 5, and where do you go for the 1 and 3? I mean, like at most you have 40% of your roster set, and that's assuming that you have Seth at the 2, right? Which is not an airtight assumption by any stretch of the imagination. And so they have a lot of work to do in the portal. We have the dead period coming up near the end of the week on Thursday. So, there are a lot of moving parts, and we'll get into it, but they need to make some moves. They need to get some commits, and they need to have a plan. And I think after last year's portal debacle, we're all kind of a little nervous, as we probably rightly should.
Yeah, I mean, fans are shell shocked because they were waiting for a center and had all these guys visit, and it never happened. And that's what you got this kind of weird roster that didn't fit with small guards, not enough shooting, and no legit center. Question for you, Spencer: are you comfortable with Seth Trimble starting at the 2? Because I think a lot of fans don't think he's going to be the starting 2. He's going to be the 6th man again and come off the bench, which I think is an awesome role for them. I think, he's so talented and physical and athletic. He does have some deficiencies, but your thoughts on what Seth Trimble could do for this roster kind of changes how you're going to construct it.
I don't know, man. I think it's no better for him to come off the bench than it is for him to start, and vice versa. I guess the one, sort of his trade-off: great defense for inconsistent scoring. So, at the start of games, you want to be able to get points on the board, but you also, as we saw this year, you don't want to have these total just defensive no-shows and give up, 20 points in the first 6 minutes or something like that. So I don't know. It's an interesting balance for the coaches to try to find. I'd be fine with him starting. I'm fine with him coming off the bench. I mean, one thing that you love to see in a guy who comes off the bench is a high energy player who can make a few plays, get a dunk, get a big defensive stop. I think, I hate to make comparisons to Duke, but Malik Brown has been, a great spark off the bench for them because of his defensive prowess. And that guy doesn't score very much. I'd say Trimble probably scores quite a bit more than him, but that's a great piece coming off the bench. So I think it would really depend much more on who the other pieces are that could be starters at the 1 and at the 3, whether or not he would, really fit into that nice 2 role.
Mike, do you think the staff promised him a starting job to come back?
No.
How do you? Okay.
I don't think Carolina does that.
Yeah,
I
wonder how that.
I don't think we do things like that at all.
I think they're probably telling him where they are recruiting, and because it's out in the open. A lot of these guys are rep by the same agents, right? So they're probably indicating hey, we're still going after these folks because we want a shooting. We see you as a incredible piece here of the puzzle, but you're not the only piece. And there's very few guys I think Carolina would be direct with about starting immediately day 1. Caleb Wilson might have been told hey, you're our guy at the 4, and we'll get into our big man that we're recruiting, but they're probably being told hey, you're gonna be the day 1 option. I don't think they promise a starting role though.
Yeah. The words they use around that I think are kind of important, and I think this is a coach speaking. We think you can be a starter. We think you can be. That's different from you will be. And I think there are probably some coaching staffs across the country who are using the latter verbiage. And then in the Carolina camp, probably very much so under Dean Smith, definitely under Roy Williams. Like, here's what we think you can be, but it's up to you to make that happen. We guarantee nothing for you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, I think he could definitely be like part of a 6-man rotation where it's like, dude, you are the sixth starter. Like, some NBA teams have that, some college teams have that. But
Yeah.
I love his play. Glides back. I think it's huge. I think it's huge for leadership. I mean, he's going to be the leader next year. At least one of them, and it's huge for the roster. And then Drake Powell, man, that would be massive. If UNC could get Drake Powell back for a second season, NIL, whatever it takes, he's got to be. I mean, he's got to be their priority in terms of NIL. Caleb Wilson, I've been kind of tracking some McDonald's All-American stuff with my real job with CBS Sports. We had a couple people in Brooklyn for that. And, he's gotten, pretty rave reviews. He's super athletic. He can defend. He's aggressive. He's active. He's not super, super polished, but I think I think fans are going to really like him, but I think he really needs an experienced point guard and someone who can kind of help him come along offensively that would really control what he brings. But I'm excited to see. I think he's a legitimate NBA guy. If not next year, the year after, and so I'm excited to see. He's a big time 5-star player. He's top 10 in the country. So Caleb Wilson saw the 4 is good. Let's get into what UNC needs. Mike and Spenser and I have been texting all day. I'm sure y'all do too. A couple other group chats, kind of breaking down the transfer portal. It opened last Monday, so a week from yesterday. And, there's over thousands of players there now. UNC's had some traction with a couple players. So right now, guys, what does UNC need? They need a point guard, right? They need shooting at the 2, at least, if not a starter at the 2, a backup who can shoot, depth at the 2 that's shooting. They're actively going after a 3 with the assumption that Drake Powell's going out. They probably need a backup 4. Someone versatile enough that can play some 4, maybe some 5. And then they need a stud starting 6'11 to 7'1 lob threat, shot blocking center, and those are the hardest to find, and they're the most expensive to get after. We have a list of names here. What is that good? What else do you think UNC needs? A backup point guard? Like what else?
I don't know. Something that you said reminded me. We didn't mention Cade Tyson earlier.
Yeah. And Zayden High.
Yeah, I saw some pictures of him shooting in the gym. So who knows what will happen with Cade Tyson? I could see him transferring just as easily. Seeing like, man, I got it pretty good here. Like, I'm making this money. Playing in North Carolina. Like, if I go somewhere else, ain't no way I'm going to make more money because I had a big goose egg of a season, essentially. So who knows, man?
Mike, quickly on Cade, what do you think happens there, man? Yeah. I thought he'd be in the portal already.
I'm not sure. If he's going to stick around, then obviously they need to renegotiate that NIL deal because you can't keep paying him what you pay in the first season.
Yeah. That could be enough to push him away. Yeah, that could be enough.
You can probably go back to Belmont and do the old boomerang and be happy, finish your career there. But I mean, like if he's willing to accept a significantly reduced NIL deal and is comfortable being like the 9th or 10th guy off the bench and thinks he can develop and just loves it at Carolina, by all means, you can't pay him I wouldn't even pay him a 6th or 7th man type salary, right? Like that's what we're talking about. We're talking about salary, and the guy's just not a contributor. So whatever he wants to do, it's his prerogative. He's a Tar Heel. Like, let him make that call, but he's not going to be playing a lot of minutes, and I don't think he should be making a ton of money.
I mean, the one thing I could see happening is where, like, Hubert sees something in him, and, we saw a little bit, not much. And, like, look, this is a body. This is a 6'7", physically developed body who has shown he can shoot. Here's $50K. Be the 8th man. I mean, look. They have, bird in the hand kind of deal. But yeah, I don't know. Yep. I don't know what he's doing. If I was him, I'd kind of get out and go where I can start somewhere. Go back to, he was a freaking stud at Belmont. All right, not quickly here, but what else do we need? I mean, all right, so point guard, shooters at the 2 and the 3, at least 2, kind of a starting shooting guard and a starting 3 essentially if Drake doesn't come back. And then a center. Those are priorities. And then you probably take someone who has some potential, a depth piece here and there, kind of like what Van Allen Lubin was last year.
Yeah.
Let's get to some names here. We're not going to break down these too much, but some names to know. And this is based on Inside Carolina's intel. Some of this stuff is premium intel. I subscribe to Inside Carolina. It's the best during this time. Free advertisement for them as a former employee. Inside Carolina, subscribe to their stuff. UNC had a visit from Nick Boyd, a point guard from San Diego State. Nick Dorn is visiting. That's been reported. He is Miles Dorn's brother, and the other Dorn played basketball at NC State, and their dad, Torin Dorn, I think, played basketball at UNC. He had a pretty good season last year for Elon. He's kind of a guard wing, long. Jonathan Powell, there's been conversations with him. He is from, is it Penn State?
He's from
No.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
State above. Jonathan Powell, and then Keon Catchings from BYU. There's been a lot of buzz with him. I watched the tape of him. He's like a 6'9", string bean, super athletic player. He would be a developmental player at the 4, maybe could play a little 3. And if he's at a 3, it's a super long lineup for UNC. And then the Golden Goose from Estonia, Henry, with an I, Visar. V-E-E. Vesar. Is it V-A-A?
It's Veesaar. I looked
Okay,
at
that's
the
spelled right.
pronunciation on the Arizona Media Guide. It's Vesar. I'm pretty
God.
confident.
Okay.
Indeed, Mike, indeed.
And he is visiting. He is visiting tomorrow. I'll bring up all their stats here. I want Mike to go through these options we talked about. I'll jump back in here, and then I want Spenser to kind of ask us some questions here, and we'll get out of here kind of breaking down. These are the targets we kind of know right now for UNC's transfer portal.
Yeah, so Vesar is the goal, right? I mean, I think we saw what a Carolina basketball team looks like without a legitimate 5. I don't think we ever want to do it again. This kid's 7 foot tall. He's a very solid player, decent rebounder, very long. A lot of the NBA draft guys are very high on him in the long run. This is someone that would be a stud at the 5 for Carolina. This is the goal. And it feels like there's been a lot of good development behind the scenes to get this guy into the transfer portal. They need to land him. I mean, I said this in SEL. Like, I kind of think that this is like the coaching staff's future really depends upon landing this guy. There's some other 5s that will be on the market. There'll be some other 5s they could potentially reel in, but this is the goal. And so he's visiting tomorrow. If I'm the staff, I'm not letting him leave until I have a signed NIL deal. Like, they need to lock this down. Always be closing. Like, that's Glengarry Ross, man. Like, bring this.
That's the big line. Yeah,
So-
you're having him on campus. Like, he's visiting. Like, he is going to be in Hubert Davis' office in the Smith Center. Like, they have to seal the deal. Like, whatever it takes.
Springtime in
Like,
Chapel Hill. I mean, what more do you want?
You beat me
Yeah,
to
it's
it, man. I
beautiful.
was going to say the same thing, man. They got to roll out the red carpet, no doubt about that. They got to tell him whatever he wants to hear.
Yep. Drop him
quickly. He only started. So he is a. Oh wait, why only 2 of his seasons listed? How much eligibility does he have, Mike?
I think he had like a redshirt year. He's got 2 more seasons, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, so he plays
a player to be named later in the Caleb Love trade. Like, give us back Steve Robinson. Parting gift here, please.
So it looks like he was a freshman in 22-23 and then redshirted or took an off year in 23-24 and was a junior last season 24-25. He averaged 9.5 points, 5 rebounds, and shot 59.2% from the field. He started 5 games and played in 37, which is probably all of them. A big dunk guy, pretty athletic from what I saw, shot blocker. But just an athletic, big body that has NBA future.
He's very good around the rim. I think his per 40 numbers are really solid. He didn't play that many minutes. He would get way more minutes at Carolina, obviously. I mean, this is who you want at the 5. I don't think we need to dive deeper on that. Like, this is the guy. Circle his name. We want him. So
and again, he is visiting, so he'll be on campus tomorrow. All right, Kayon is how you say it. Kayon Catchings. His aunt is Kanon. Yeah. His aunt is Tamika Catchings, the former WNBA star. He was a freshman at BYU last year. He played in 31 games, started 15, averaged 7.2 points, 2.2 rebounds, and shot 41.1% from the field and 35% from three. So kind of a halftime starter, super athletic, super long. Let me pull up his stats again. He is 6'9", 190,
6'9".
string bean, very athletic. Like I said, kind of could be a depth at the 4 or a starter at the 3. I mean, he would be a great get. I mean, this would be a versatile piece that would fill a lot of holes for UNC, and then you would have him for maybe another year if he is not a pro guy after that.
Yeah, high upside guy. Really like his what he could be potentially visiting Georgia tomorrow for what it's worth. So, I think that Carolina is still in that recruitment. I don't think they're out of it just because Georgia's getting the first visit, but just worth noting he is visiting Georgia tomorrow.
Yeah, I love going after him simply because he's 6'9" and can move, man. Like, I think one thing that people don't always think about is just what an extra 2 or 3 inches does across the board, what it does defensively, what it does offensively. And so, and on the defensive side, not only what it does for you to be able to individually match up, but what it does for your floor spacing and your team defense. Like, let's think back to that first Duke game in Cameron. We couldn't even get by anybody because they got 5 monsters out there and there's not a driving lane. So just having tall guys helps, man. And that's something that I think hurt us. It's like we've got 4 guys that are 6'6" or shorter on the court, one 6'8", one 6'10" this year, and driving lanes are wide open. We've got no rim protection to back that up. And, it hurts us on the other end too, because everybody's taller than us. So it's like tall, athletic guys, we'll take them.
Yeah, I mean, there is a clear move, and Hubert Davis said, I think at his radio spot at top of the hill, that they're trying to get big. I mean, obviously, they want to get bigger at every position. It's like, no shit, man. They want to get bigger. Obviously, need a center, but like at every position, he said that, so he's aware of it. And you're seeing that with the targets they're going after. Like the guards are 6'2" and 6'3", the wings are 6'7", 6'8", 6'6", and then the center is 7 feet. So you can kind of see the trend. They want to get longer. And we won't have, with Cadeau and RJ gone, you're not going to have 2 short guards in there. All right, let's move on to Jonathan Powell. Have him pulled up here. West Virginia, a freshman. I do like them going after these guys who have a little bit more eligibility. The second-year transfer bump is a real thing. They can be really good in their second year as a transfer. We haven't really seen that too much with UNC yet. 8.3 points. He started 23 games as a freshman, played in 32, 3.1 rebounds, shot 37% from the field, not great, but 35% from 3. I'd consider him a wing, kind of a traditional 6'6" wing. Mike, what you got on Jonathan Powell out of West Virginia?
I did some digging in terms of like West Virginia, discussions about him. I think they're pretty bummed that he entered the transfer portal. They kind of view him as like potentially one of the better sophomores in the country next year. I don't mean this to be offensive. I feel like he's almost like a Kirkland brand Drake Powell, right? Like in the same mold. And I will happily take a Kirkland brand Drake Powell if Drake's leaving. This kid, I think, has high upside. That seems to be kind of the theme for that 3-4 folks that they're recruiting is lengthy, some 3-point ability, high upside. And so, like, I'm fine with it. I think he would be a really good get for this team. And I also like the fact that he would be there probably a couple more years. So. And Kirkland brand is not an offensive take from me. I love Costco for what it's worth. So just saying.
Dude,
funny, Mike. I wrote down the same exact thing. Similar game to Drake Powell.
Yeah, it just shows you the importance. I mean, you take him and recruit over him. Like, take him and then go after a stud that enters, in a couple days. Funny fact, I went to Costco for the first time yesterday. So Kirkland brand's been on top of my mind. All right, moving on. Hey, great meat and egg prices. Nick Dorn, recognize the last name. Like I said, Miles Dorn's youngest brother. I didn't know there was a third one. Elon, he is a 2-year player, Elon, so he has 2 years remaining. He's been a 2-year starter pretty much. Started 22 games as a freshman, 25 games as a sophomore. Seems like there might be an injury in his sophomore season with the amount of games he played. Out of Charlotte, 6'7", 200 pounds, very long. His brothers were not that tall. and he averaged 15.2 points, shot 37% from the field and 35% from the 3-point line, averaged 3.8 rebounds. Obviously, this is Elon. This is a different conference. This is a very lower level of basketball. So 15.2 points there. It doesn't really translate to what would happen in the Power 5. I think this would be a depth piece. I think this would be a security blanket at the 2 and at the 3 maybe if they miss out on other people. But I think, I don't know. Do you need to just take him and take the body there? He's visiting here soon. Mike?
Yeah, I lean on the theory that the more shooting you have from the 2 to 4 range, the better. I'm kind of the mindset that you acquire all the guys you can in that range, and then let the offseason sort of stuff out, and whoever ends up the best player, can start. I think the knock would probably be defense with him. But if you can shoot the 3 and provide minutes, I'm happy to take you. I think is he visiting tomorrow or is he already visiting today? Do we know?
I think the article was that he was on campus today.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what he does. I think Dorn, Powell, and Catching's all kind of fill in similar-ish spots. Like you're all looking probably at the 3 there, and I don't know what the staff is thinking in terms of prioritizing them. But I would hope that you can probably get at least 2 of the 3 at minimum. So remains to be seen. But I would take him.
And the mindset here, like in-state guy, brother went to Carolina, dad went to Carolina. Does he want to go to Carolina and fly on charter planes and play big time AC basketball and maybe play 10 to 15 minutes instead of 30 minutes? Like, does he want to take a secondary role at UNC, or does he want to go someplace and be a starter? It's kind of what he's got to decide he wants, because he could go someplace else and definitely be a starter in a lesser area. He could go to UNC and be a depth piece and potentially have a fun ride to the NCAA tournament and play some big time games on big stages. You got anything on him, Spenser?
Out of respect for our friend Julian Council, I'm gonna take offense at lower level basketball for Elon. I know he's very defensive of his Phoenixes, so just pour one out for him there.
Not much else to add. I think these guys that we've just talked about, Powell, Catchings, and then Dorn, what happens with them, that could impact a Cade Tyson move. There's just, like you said, I like this idea. It's like, we've got a bunch of guys who are all 6 foot, 6'6", 6'7", like, we'll take them. And if, you want height. The game is predicated on height and athleticism, man. So it's like, we'll have them.
Okay. And last one, Nick Boyd. He visited this weekend, 6'3", 170 out of San Diego State. He's been in college for a while. I don't even think – he was unranked. 3 seasons at Florida Atlantic. Went to the Final Four, was a starter on their Final Four team under Dusty May. Transferred last season to San Diego State when Dusty May left. And at San Diego State, he was a starting point guard. 31 games, 31 starts, 13.4 points, 3.9 assists as a point guard, shot 41% from the field, 35% from the 3. My opinion on him, and I've watched his tape, he's not super dynamic, not super athletic, but he's steady. He's experienced. He's going to be a fifth-year guy, and they may need that. And I think they need an experienced point guard who can be controlled, can run an offense, can score a little bit, can shoot a little bit, and maybe that's what this team needs coming off the Elliot Cadeau experience. Anything here, Mike and Spenser? We'll get out here shortly.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment. High floor, low ceiling guy, consistent. I don't think it's going to matter. We're seeing some crystal balls for Wisconsin, so he would have been a nice replacement for Elliot, especially if you're going with the mindset that we just need a steady presence at the 1. But if he is not our option, they need to figure out who they want to target from the point guard list. I know that Nate George's name from Georgia Tech's been out there. Jelon Lowe from Pittsburgh's been out there. It just entered the portal today, I think. So it seems like Boyd would have been a really solid, like kind of consistent floor general senior experience type of guy. But they might need to pivot here quickly.
I was just going to say, I think you really want to go on the side of experience here. Like, I think you got to try to get in a guy who's a rising junior or a rising senior, going for inexperience, a guy who's coming off a say a so-so freshman season and he's testing the waters everywhere else. Like you don't want that type of player. I like Boyd's game. I mean, 54% at the rim, good assist to turnover ratio, a steady hand, catch and shoot. Like, anybody that's kind of in that realm that can give you 10 points a game and a few assists, like I think you'd have to be happy with that. Like there's only so many points to go around.
Yeah, and I think, visited Wisconsin after UNC, and Travis Branham from 24/7 Sports put a crystal ball in for him to commit to Wisconsin. So it's interesting. Like, did UNC press him? Did they want a commitment from him? Like, I'm wondering what happened there. I think they're definitely operating under the, they're going to move on quickly, and probably still are moving, have already moved on with more options. But yeah, I mean, point guard is critical. You have Derek Dixon off the bench, but Derek Dixon's not going to start. But that is probably your backup at this point.
Yeah.
And Seth Trimble could play a little point guard in a tight space if there was injury. But Roy Williams always wanted 3 point guards on the roster because you know what happened when Kendall Marshall got hurt against Creighton in 2012. So he always wanted 3 point guard roster. I think it's a great way to run. So I mean, we need to see some more action here. There'll be a dead period in the portal here for the Final Four. It opens back up, and it's only open a total of 30 days. So it'll close April 21st or 24th, around then. But then they can commit anytime. I mean, there's no time limit on when they can commit. So even after the portal closes, you can't enter, but players could be committing into April, May, and even like June. But, in the next couple of weeks, we should have a better idea what UNC has and what they need. Priority, Henry Vassar, and a point guard, and then some of these long shooting guards and stuff. I got a question for y'all. It's a question posted to me on some group chats. What does UNC need to do next year for Hubert Davis to keep his job? I'm thinking like, what seed do you have to be in the NCAA tournament? Maybe an ACC finish.
Very similar discussion in group chat today. The consensus kind of centered around a 4 seed and make it to the second weekend at minimum. And I think that's probably the floor for continuing in the Hubert Davis era, in my opinion.
So they have to be a 4 seed or above and make it to the second weekend?
I would say so. I mean,
okay.
I think that this season left a lot of bad taste, especially in concert with the number 1 preseason, missed the tournament year, where people are very disappointed where Carolina basketball is trending. I think the big fear in the back of everyone's mind is that you become Indiana or UCLA for periods of time, and you kind of achieve this fallen blue blood status. And I also think this is coming at the worst time because Duke is likely going to win a title here in about a week, which, I mean, just straight up, that they're inevitable in my opinion. And so even rolling it back further, Ross, I think the really challenging part and why the transfer portal I think is just bad for the psyche of fan bases across college basketball is that in a lot of ways your season is determined in the next month. Your season for where you'll be next March is really determined right now. And, I think hiring Jim Tanner was an excellent move. We should have done it last season. I'm hoping that, a general manager, in the same way that we're talking about the point guard situation, hoping that a general manager can kind of be the steady hand for the staff that it's needed. But, it's crazy to say this. The next 48 hours are critical. I mean, absolutely critical to not only the future of this next season, the future of the coaching staff, and the future of Carolina basketball program. I know that seems, hyperbolic, but like it truly is. So I really hope they are crushing it, and there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes going on because they really need to hit a home run here, or even a good double. The stand-up double will take.
Yeah. Spenser, what do you think? What do you need to see next season for Hubert Davis to keep his job?
Similar to Mike, but I'll add some more flavor to it. I think how it looks on court throughout the season really matters. Like, say you get a 3 seed, or even we'll say 6 seed. You're a 6 seed, but it's like there weren't these huge swings of, okay, we go down 20 and then we work our way back. And all these games, all these things that we talked about, the way things looked on the court last season. Like, if you end up with some solid guys, and they just don't pan out, and we're pretty good and lose in the round of 32. Like, he probably keeps his job by the skin of his teeth. But to guarantee he gets another year, I would say something similar to Mike in that 4 or 5 seed at the lowest, and making it into the Sweet 16 would guarantee him. It feels, as a former player, it does feel a little strange commenting on this, but
You're media now.
yeah, I guess so, man.
Welcome.
I guess so. I hope the best, man. I hope the best. You don't want to see changeover. I think that's one of the things that made Carolina basketball so great, man. We had Dean Smith at the helm for 30-some years. Bill Guthridge for a couple. He was already at the end of his career. Matt Doherty, that didn't go well. And, then Roy Williams for almost 20 years. So, consistency. You don't want turnover. So it's like you want desperately for Hubert Davis and his coaching staff to find their footing. You want Jim Tanner and his staff to find their groove, and let's get guys. We want it all to work. That's the thing. We desperately want it all to work. So, I hope it really does. I just hope it does.
Yeah. 4-5 is kind of what we decided on too. I think top 4 in the ACC, like
yep.
double bye in the ACC tournament. And then,
Not
what'd you say?
Not getting swept by Duke.
Yeah, can't lose them both. Yep.
I don't know. The Duke's be pretty good next year too. And I would say, look, recruiting, Hubert's been an okay recruiter, legitimately at landed some 5 stars. But you got to look at the recruiting class next year too and see how that looks. And then, I don't know, win one in the tournament would be. I don't know if you have to. It's hard to have really strict guidelines for. All right, if you don't win this game, you're fired. But it's interesting, man. A lot, like you said, Mike, a lot will depend on this roster for next year, and a lot of that's going to depend on what happens in the next 2, 3, 4 days, and then after the dead period. All right, we appreciate all y'all listening. We have a special segment coming up. Mike's going to head out, and then it's me, Spenser, me, and David Ray Allen talking season 3 of the White Lotus. Yeah, but there's 7 episodes. That's what I was thinking about. 7th episode just happened. Season 3, so stay tuned to some we'll do 15 minutes on the White Lotus. I feel like, what'd you say? Yeah.
Watch the pit on Max. That's my plug. Right.
We appreciate your time, Mike, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.
All right, welcome back into Big Hitters Only, sponsored by Delta Spirits. Drink DeltaSpirits.com. Special guest David Ray Allen, your 4th appearance now on Big Hitters Only, but this is not basketball. We're going to talk White Lotus. I love talking White Lotus with people who've listened, who've watched the show on HBO. We're big Max fans in these parts. As a former guy who was on Max. White Lotus, season 3. All right, this is where I want to start. I want each of y'all to give me your favorite storyline right now, from the season. There's one more episode that's going to happen. I'll start with David.
Spenser, by the way, can I just get your opinion on this? If Ross was going to be on a prestige TV drama on Max, it would be White Lotus. I think we could cast him in season 4.
I agree, man. I agree. He'd fit right in.
Yeah, for sure. Favorite storyline? I guess I gotta go Goggins just because of him. I mean, him being on back-to-back, going into Righteous Gemstones has been incredible. But the Rick Hatchett storyline, him going to the house of his father's murderer in the last episode was pretty great. And I think the payoff with the Goggins storyline is going to be the best of the ones. That's actually my main critique, though, of the season, if I'm allowed to go in there very briefly. It's just to say, sir. In seasons past, I think I was drawn to one storyline more than the other, and I feel relatively 7 out of 10 about all of these. Like, I'm kind of interested in what's going to happen with all of them, whereas I think in the first 2 seasons there was like one set that I was like, oh shit, I cannot wait to hear what happens with them. So...
what's weird though, you're going heavy on the Goggins, but I don't feel like they're utilizing him as an actor as much as they could. I mean, I know him the most from Righteous Gemstones and Vice Principals. And dude, he's incredible. He's my favorite character in Righteous Gemstones, and he plays such a subdued character in as Rick in White Lotus. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely an intriguing character. A lot of a lot of psychology there as well.
Yeah,
Spencer,
pregnant pauses and gruff sighs and things like that.
yeah,
I love this North Carolina family kind of
yeah,
storyline. I mean, it's awesome. Like the little micro storyline of what's going to happen with, um, when, what's her name? The mom. Uh, when the mom finds out that the dad's going to go to jail and it's all falling apart, and had that great scene in the last episode or 2 episodes ago where she says, I'm not at a place in my life where I can live uncomfortably. How that all blows up, I think, is going to be pretty exciting in the finale. How this dad takes it. I mean, what an incredible little monologue from Schwarzenegger, saying like, "Dad, if I'm not working for you, I'm nothing.
yeah.
I'm nothing as a human being if not, a worker bee for you and in this life." So, very, very much an existential crisis, so I think that'll play out pretty fun in the next episode.
You mentioned Victoria Ratliff by Parker Posey. I mean, that's my favorite character.
Yes.
I mean, she is
She's
unbelievable.
awesome.
Yeah, every line is gold. The accents is so exaggerated, but just perfect. I mean, she's funny. I do really like that storyline. Outside of the brothers jerking each other off, but let's get a little edgy here. This is not for. Don't be listening to this in the car with your kids. But I don't think the Timothy Ratliff storyline. I saw a tweet about this from fucking Barstool Big Cat. They didn't they set him up for a great storyline with this money issue with the Asian guy, and they kind of killed it after the second or third episode. They haven't mentioned it in the last 2 or 3 episodes, and they kind of just made him on drugs for the last 3 episodes, or asleep or napping. They didn't develop this huge storyline of how he's going to go to a federal prison. The FBI is raiding his office. He could lose all his money and be in jail. They kind of just ended it, and they took other storylines away. I thought it was just an odd choice. You kind of set it up to be this awesome storyline and end it.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think that's the reason why I lean him being one of the people who is dead at the end of the season. Is my kind of prediction for the finale is he is going to find the will to live. He is going to find some type of renewed passion for life in Buddhism, in something, and then he will die. That feels very White Lotus-y to me. And that's why I think, I mean, that doesn't make up for the fact that, yeah, he has been underdeveloped the past few episodes. But that's kind of my gut, is right when you get that kind of aha moment where he's like, you know what, I'm back in the game, is when we're gonna see our old friend. I just keep thinking of him from Harry Potter. Malfoy
Jason
will
Isaacs,
die. Yeah, Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, and sorry, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say. Yeah, what's your favorite character? Who's your favorite character, Spencer? Outside the guys you already mentioned.
That crazy bald Russian was kind of
Vlad.
a good laugh out of him.
Vlad.
Yeah, what a wild character, man.
So on that, you kind of led me to that. What do you think that storyline is going to happen with the three girls on their girls trip? Like, is that I think all we learned last episode was that those 3 guys stole the jewels from the hotel.
That was a big reveal. That was a big reveal.
That was a big plot point. I thought that was important because we kind of lacked. We'll get into this a little bit later, but like this White Lotus has kind of lacked plot development. Like, it's been such a slow burn. I thought the last episode we finally got the Rick storyline in Bangkok somewhat resolved. You got we figured out who stole the jewels. That was confirmed. But what's going to happen with these 3 women? Are they just kind of a secondary storyline to what is going to be the focus of the final episode, David?
I don't see any of the 3 of them killing anybody. I mean, Carrie Coon has been brilliant in this season, I thought, and I don't see any of the 3 of them rising to the level of murder. Can I just say briefly, Guy Talk, I think, is my favorite. Just completely inept, just stumbling through. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but the girl who he's been hitting on this entire season, she's like the K-pop star of all K-pop stars. Like she's
Yeah.
got like millions of followers on Instagram. Anyway, he's been hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a resolution that's imminently. I don't know. Like nothing jumps to mind immediately with what's going to happen to those three that would be like interesting as a viewer. So
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Spencer?
I would have maybe like Jacqueline Lemon, Michelle Monaghan's character. She could be kind of like a sneaky person who dies. I think the reason I don't think that would happen is because they haven't really interwoven those three women's storyline with any of the other characters. They've been their own little pod. You know, Guy Talk is like pulling the gun out of uh, the dresser
Ratliffs.
in the
Yeah.
Ratliff's, apartment. So there's a little interwovenness there. Some other storylines are kind of touching each other, like, the family and how they interact with Gary, who is or Greg from the last season, and like, the women there, like those plot lines are interwoven a little bit, but then the three women haven't really touched that. So it's like, the shock factor of one of them dying would just be like, oh, that's the actress and she's dead. There wouldn't be any personal relationship or something like that. That would be blown up by her dying outside of the little three women's pod. But that could
Yeah.
be kind of a sneaky death, maybe.
Yeah, I think their dynamic is just kind of interesting. The way
Yeah.
they bully each other or bully one person and interact with each other and take each other's side was kind of just an interesting character development in its own. All right, let's get into. All right, first of all, there's two monologues, and they've been in, I think, back-to-back episodes that have been the best. Like they're both sexual of nature. And I'm talking about, I pulled up the very famous actor, Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell in Bangkok when he gets a drink with Rick and talks about being sober, and then the fantasies with the lady boy. That was an all-time, monologue, and looking at Rick and the way he's understanding it and trying to kind of be there for his friend and set up a meme. And then the last episode with what's her name? Gary's girlfriend. This is kind of, we're not professionals here with this stuff.
Lydia,
Gary's
maybe?
girlfriend.
Yeah,
I don't know what her name is.
You don't know anybody's name. It's just like I know who you're talking about. I don't know her name.
Yeah,
I'm
Gary-
with you.
The
Gary's
French-Canadian
girlfriend.
girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the girl with the teeth, but I guess she has a different kind of teeth as well. But she, when she talks about Gary's fantasy, is like derived from listening to her parents him listening to his parents have sex and like all this stuff, and like wants to watch Saxon Ratliff have sex with her while he watches like that. Him breaking it down, and the Amy Lee Woods reaction was incredible. I think those are the two, like, I don't know, best moments and funniest moments. It's just such a well done show when those little moments and things are perfect.
Yeah, Mike White's a messed up dude, man. I mean, I don't know what he's sitting at home writing these seasons about. He's crazy. But yeah, Sam Rockwell, like Oscar-winning actor, just dropping in for a couple episodes because he's married to somebody on cast who was, I'm in Thailand anyway, might as well do a little something here. He's been excellent. What a surprise. And I thought comedically his performance in the last episode was maybe even better than the dramatic monologue where he's just having to BS his way through the conversation with the lady was outstanding. And it drove him to the alcohol, so you gotta love that. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I thought
sitting there in like a NASCAR hat. That was funny.
Yeah.
It said like
Yeah.
Lowe's Racing or something
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
right.
And he
Yeah,
says,
shout out.
You were a queen in one movie? And she's like, oh yeah.
That was great. It was super
Hilarious.
like cringy too, like the awkwardness
Yeah.
of that moment. And then I thought it was so funny. It was like, yeah, I'll do a drink. Yeah, I'll do another one. And then like they got out of there, it was like,
excited.
yeah, we're pretty much off the boat now. Let's just get hammered doing cocaine and the nudity that follows. All right, let's get through some more storylines here. All right, so the Gary, Greg, Belinda stuff. I know you got some theories here, David. What do you think? So she gets invited to the party, and Gary Gregg offers her $100K to kind of forget about him, forget about that he potentially could have murdered the lady from the previous episodes, previous seasons, his ex-wife. And then she kind of says she's going to think about it. What do you think's going on there? What do you think he did? What's that storyline for you?
I thought I was red hot on the trail with my guy Porn Shy. I thought he was in on it. That was my prediction, because
Porn Shy.
They bonded very quickly, maybe like suspiciously quickly, and then they were at the counter together, and he was like, "By the way, I think we should go in on business together," which is the exact same thing that had happened seasons ago. So my theory was Greg/Gary had gotten with Porn Shy at some point. There was some kind of thing that was happening there, but then he was absent. I don't think he made an appearance in the last episode, which kind of slowed down my trajectory for something going on there. Obviously, that one is set up for the most explosive fireworks in the finale. You'd have to think that if you were thinking through this logically, somebody's ending up dead. That trio is probably where you're picking someone to die logically, which means probably they'll all three end up safe, because that's how these shows go. But I don't know. That's kind of my theory is don't forget about Porn Shy. He's been a very important character of the season, and I think you might see him in the finale.
Porn Shy getting with Belinda. Any thoughts on that little storyline there? I mean, $100K. I was telling my fiance, I was like, dude, ask for $500K. You see this house? Like, ask for $1 million. Like $100K. Like, you can't even put down a down payment if you're going to start a business.
You can't get a good backup point guard in the NIL market for
That's right. Yeah, it's like 1/6 of K Tyson's salary.
Yeah, you got to think one of the things that White Lotus does so well, all three of the seasons, is morality and how do we navigate these situations? What's right? What's wrong? And everything in between. And obviously, Belinda doesn't even know for sure that Greg had something to do with the death in the last season. It's just conjecture. And so he's saying, here's $100,000 for you to go back to Maui and wherever they were in the last season, or 2 seasons ago, whenever it was, for you to go back to not Thailand and forget that I even exist. What reason? The son was take it. And she's like, well, no, I just need to think about it. It's like, well, what do you actually need to think about? Why does it matter? So I don't know, just that play on it. It's like, well, what moral compass does she have, and where is she going to take it that it could, take the plot further? So I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. All right. I think people have been pretty frustrated with the development, the plot development of the story. It's been a super slow burn. I agree. And that Big Cat tweet about how they just didn't take the Jason Isaacs, Timothy Ratliff storyline anyway, kind of opened my eyes. They had a bunch of cool storylines that didn't even, a lot of things could have gotten crazier or could have gotten even more dramatic a little earlier, but maybe that's the whole point. It always does come to a head. I just thought there'd be a little more action by now. It's been super big on just character development, plot development, or character development, developing these characters' relationships and stuff, but less on plot development. How overall here, guys, I don't know. I can't really remember the last 2 seasons, but how have you enjoyed this season comparatively? Yeah.
I think it's my least favorite of the 3, but it's hard to judge without this finale happening. I think my thing is a 90-minute finale. That's what HBO released today. Was it's gonna be 90 minutes? That's a feature film. I mean, Toy Story is 80 minutes long. I mean, there's so many classic movies that are under 90 minutes. We're gonna get 90 minutes on Sunday. What? At some point, it's the finale is gonna have to be 1 through 90, just insanely action packed for it to make up for some of the slow part of the season. And I'm okay with a slow burn, True Detective season 1, one of my favorite shows ever. Slow burn, but there's moments in each of those episodes where it's going to get your heart racing a little bit, and it hasn't happened yet a ton in season 3 of White Lotus. So can I say it's my least favorite through 7 episodes, but I'd like to wait and give my final result after we see what happens on Sunday.
Spenser, have you liked this season? Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah,
parts of it you really
I've
liked?
enjoyed it. I'm tuning in
Yeah.
every Sunday right at 9 o'clock. And I saw a funny tweet that was saying like life is better when there's prestige television on HBO on Sunday nights. Like our lives are better. So yeah, I'm tuning in. I enjoy it. Hard to put a number on it, but it's well worth my time.
Yeah, I think the characters are great. I mean, that's what's the best part about White
absolutely.
Lotus is just like the different types of characters, how it's whole new actors and the little quirky things about each one, the facial, facial reactions and how they carry themselves, the how it's written is really cool. And I mean, obviously the how it's filmed and the beautiful locations. I mean, not a huge part, but it's kind of like, wow, this is a really put together, awesome show to watch. So I'm definitely excited for the 90-minute finale.
I think one thing too for me, like this North Carolina family, like I'm just loving it. Biased as a North Carolinian, like how many times would you see that Ratliff pair of parents like at a tailgate on the Deke front lawn?
Yeah.
Like that's a Deke mom, that's a Deke dad. They're in some sort of like nondescript finance, but they're absolutely loaded type of family, some old money, house on figure eight, whatever. Like those are real people that we came across during our time at Carolina. At least I most certainly did.
And they said they used Southern charm accents for the mom and the dad. The dad on what's his name? Ravenel. It was a perfect Ravenel accent. Who's like the old South guy in Southern Charm, and then the Parker Posey's character is based on like the grandmother, and you can definitely see that. But there's also some of the people with the high society way they talk. You can find that in North Carolina as well. They sort of consulted, a UNC frat guy to get shorter shorts on Saxon. But yeah. All right, cool. Anything else, David? You got anything else? Anything on the two younger Ratliff brothers, brother and sister?
I'll pass there, but I will say tune in to finish your 9 o'clock viewing of White Lotus and stick around for Gemstones because it's as funny as anything on TV. Uncle Baby Billy and his Bible Wonkers, as he says, it's as good as White Lotus in a completely different way. So maybe we'll come on at the end of the season and talk about that as well.
We'll have to do a episode 8 finale recap on Big Hitters Only.
The people are asking.
Yeah. All right, guys. Appreciate your time. Big Hitters Only, Spenser, David, sponsored by Delta Spirits. Drink, deltaspirits.com. We'll talk to you next time.